Hi everyone, this is John with Sun and Shadow, where we make tools for competitors and warriors. On this episode of 5-minute tips for 1-minute shooters, we're going to talk about one of the most important parts of your precision rifle equipment, your baseline data. When I say baseline data, I mean the data you gather and store when you zero your gun. It's the keystone to a solid firing solution. This data is the measuring stick used in your ballistic solver every time you shoot in a different environment, so it's critical to get it right. The data collection process can be really tedious when you start, but if you do it right the first time, you'll have consistent results throughout your time with that particular gun. Today we're going to discuss the use of sensors and equipment like chronographs and weather stations to build a ballistic profile. If you're like many people, myself included, that don't really have easy access to 500 or 600 yards, you may need some data gathering tools. There are several tools you might need to arrange when building your data. Most importantly is the ammo you use. On the last episode, we talked about picking a load that is consistent in your gun and sticking with it. This will be the ammo you zero with and shoot at precision matches like the Tactical Game Sniper Challenge, Quantified Performance Gas Gun matches, or PRS. And since we also like carbines with LPVOs here, ammo and zero matters for regular tactical games or two-gun matches, and you should be using this data collection process for those guns as well. After ammo, the second tool you'll need is a chronograph. This sensor measures muzzle velocity, which is one of the parameters we'll need to extrapolate good data. Chronos vary by cost and type. I use this tripod-mounted unit that's a bit difficult to set up, but it was inexpensive and it doesn't require me to strap the unit to my rifle, which may impact zero depending on how it's done. Plus, I'd rather spend money on ammo than on another chronograph. Next, you'll need a handheld weather station like a Kestrel. It doesn't need to be an expensive unit. I'm using this Kestrel 2500 and have had good success with it. This model doesn't do ballistics or humidity, but I have other options for that. This weather station will give you the next sets of critical data for your inputs, which are temperature and air pressure. A built-in humidity gauge is also really nice to have, but humidity does not have as much effect on ballistics as temperature and air pressure. If you don't have access to a weather station, you can use the basic inputs for your local area that are pulled from like a weather app, like a weather.com or something, although it's best to start learning to collect your own real data. Your final tool will be a ballistic solver. There are a lot of options for apps on your phone, both free and paid, including Ballistic AE, Strelok, Hornady Fordoff, and many others. Some tools, like laser rangefinders or Kestrel meters, might even include a solver already. We'll cover the use of app-based solver in another video, as there's a lot of data that needs to be input, but much of it can be figured out within the program. For this video, the main inputs you'll need to collect for the solver during the zero process with your ammo chrono and weather station will be your zero distance, the average muzzle velocity, the environmental temperature, the environmental pressure, and the environmental humidity. Again, you can pull that from a weather station. Before you start shooting, set up your chronograph. If you use a freestanding unit, position it between 10 and 15 yards away from the rifle so that the muzzle blast doesn't knock it over or skew results. Also, take care to make sure you have it positioned below your muzzle. It will be a bad day if you accidentally put a bullet into your chrono. Finally, measure the distance from your muzzle to the chronograph. This can be done using a tape measure or a laser rangefinder. Knowing this distance will allow you to calculate the velocity at the muzzle within your solver. When gathering the muzzle velocity, I like to shoot at least 20 rounds for a larger data set. Now why 20, you might ask? I don't really know. It just seems like a big enough number for a reliable average. If you're zeroing, it might be okay to shoot 4 5-shot groups through the chrono in order to reach 20. Pulling the average velocity from these 20 rounds along with the measured distance from your muzzle to the chronograph will allow you to calculate muzzle velocity within the solver. From there, add in the environmental effects present during your zero session, and you're on your way to building a good baseline data set. At the end of your data session, you should have something like this here. I have all 20 of my rounds on the target. I have the zero distance, the rifle and relevant load data. I have the average muzzle velocity and the distance from the chronograph. I have the temperature, pressure, and humidity at the time of the zero, and I have some other relevant information that goes along with the session. You might want to date the session and then store this with your rifle or in some other place that you can reference it later. In the next episode, we'll look at use of the ballistic solver and discuss the process of truing data, which is the key to validating and trusting the ballistic solver. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. And while you're at the range, have fun. We're always learning.